able to ask you this. You and Vitali, there's always different relationships between siblings. Some are good, some are bad, some are in between. How would you describe your relationship with him when you were young kids?
My brother is the best friend, the best ally, the best challenger, the best competitor. I would say it's not a competition between us, but competition, because we're trying to sharpen ourselves and conversations we have and challenges we've faced in the past. And it's always been a pleasure to have such ally, because you do need allies in your life if you want to achieve anything, any goals which you have. Self-made man or woman doesn't exist. It's a lie if a person gonna say I'm self-made man or woman. That's not true, because you were made by two, your parents, your mother and your father. So let's start with that as a foundation. And obviously, if you want to achieve any goals in your life, you need allies. And sometimes your opponents can be your allies. And that's exactly, as I said, competition. For example, back then, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and more were my sparring partners. So, I never sparred with Tyson Fury, but he was in my camp. Emanuel Steward brought him in, but I did spar with Anthony Joshua. So back then, he was sharpening me for the next upcoming challenge and the title defense. But knowing, so probably we're gonna see each other later on in the real fight, in the real ring. So that's why it's like between the companies, there's competition when you're competing with your possible opponent and counterhand in the future.
I believe a young Deontay Wilder was also in some of your camps.
Deontay Wilder. So as I said, there were a lot of fighters and Joseph Parker. And so basically, I know my crowd, people. So because they were in the training camp before when I was an active athlete.
Yeah, I know Emanuel, who was a beloved figure, believed that iron sharpens iron. Did you see greatness in those young fighters back then? Did you see something like, boy, these guys can be pretty good?
Back then, I didn't understand that much, but Emanuel was sharing with me that, before you, Wladimir, he was not saying Vladimir, he was saying Wladimir.
Vladimir, I want to talk to you now. I want to talk to you about these guys.
Anyway, Detroit accent and dialect
is
very special. In the beginning, I couldn't get along with that, and Jonathan Banks and everyone else from Detroit. So, but later on, I got it. So, and I got also kind of sense of tweak of pronunciations. Anyway, Emanuel was telling me that a lot of fighters, and he named all of them in the past, were actually having great sparring partners, because you can sharpen iron sharpens iron. So you need to have seasoned fighters. You need to have great competitors in sparring sessions. Right. That's how you're going to get better. And eventually, it's a good preparation for your upcoming challenge and upcoming title defenses. And we were just doing what was done before. And Emanuel was sponsoring it and giving those opportunities with the young fighters. A lot of them were even amateurs, or just like, for example, Anthony Joshua just won his gold medal in London 2012. And next, he was in my training camp.
One of my favorite people in boxing of all time is a man you know intimately well, the great Emanuel Steward, Mr. Kronk. What was he like? How would you describe him?
You know, he had different sides. On one side, he was a mentor, absolutely. On the other side, he was a friend. On the next side, he was a father, just something like that. He's just an incredible man that was very communicative, and he was always positive and always sharing his experiences and always trying to get the best out of you. And he was very complimentary. Yeah. So the compliments that he was giving, that's what, and I was actually having discussion with him, because I got used to iron sharpens iron with the criticism and what I've done wrong. and usually that's how teachers or trainers train and teach. So they're always putting an accent on what you do wrong.
Right.
So try not to do the wrong things. And Emanuel did it in the other way. He was giving compliments, and that was his method of sharing his experience. He was giving compliments, and I was asking why why you're so different? Because he said, I want you to motivate a repetition of what you've done good. I don't want you to, stay focused on the negativity. So think positive, and that's what he said. And I want you to motivate and repeat what you've done right, and not always saying like what you've done wrong.
Yeah, I used to have a lot of discussions about Emanuel, and you used to frustrate him though, Vladimir, because he used to say, this guy should be Tommy Hearns. This guy is so great, he doesn't know it. And he didn't like you playing chess. He used to tell me that. He goes, it makes him think too much. He goes, I want him to play check or something. Would you ever have discussions about why chess, in your view, was beneficial to you?
Oh my goodness. I remember those conversations, especially between the rounds, and he was screaming at me, and like, don't scream at me. Don't, like, what am I doing? I'm doing what you said. Like, come on. It was always, it was a controversy with him in some ways, especially between the rounds, but he did it for a reason. He knew his system, how to motivate fighters to do more than they can. And obviously it was a great cooperation with Emanuel, and he's greatly missed.